Okay. All right, so I don't know if we want to wait for a couple more people, because I know a couple more people are coming. Oh, I don't know if I want to introduce you. So Madison is actually the president of the Alpha Club at Bryant.
Hello.
So
hello.
So yep, we co-planned this.
Nice.
But
are you guys like in your dorms? Are you guys in isolation? How are your classes going? Like, what are you guys doing for that?
I mean, I can answer a little bit. I guess it's a little bit of both. So some days you can be in class, some days you can be online. They're a little more lenient with people who want to stay home this semester that might just want to do the half online, half in person, but even all in person or all online. So I guess they're pretty flexible, but overall it's not going the greatest if you want to know the truth. Just because I feel like I don't learn as best online and stuff. So.
It's challenging. It definitely is for a lot of students. My son's 21, so he's third year right now. Well, actually fourth year, and all his classes are Zoom and online, and sometimes they're 6 hours straight, and it's just he fell asleep, mind you, and one and they're all like waking him up. They're like, no, don't fall asleep. You know, so it's challenging. It definitely is for sure.
Yeah. It's really weird.
So are you guys part of the same course? Or are you guys all different courses? Like what are you guys taking?
So so I'm just part of like Bryant Fashion Forum, and then people who are here are members of Bryant Fashion Forum or of Alpha. So like we're not in like a same class or anything. We're just part of the different clubs.
And it's part of a school?
Bryant University.
Okay, because I kind of looked it up and it's in Rhode Island. Is that right?
Yes, very far from you.
Yeah, we're in Canada.
Yeah.
So the Alpha Club is, when you guys said it,
Yeah, it's a national recognized type of organization, if you will. There's actually people who have like employment through Alpha. It's basically just the Association of for Latino Professionals of America. It's a really good way just to kind of, well, with our school, it's something that we already have, but what I've noticed with other schools, they don't have the resources or even the people on campus to go if they want to get the resume figured out or how to like start a LinkedIn or like how to kind of network. Like our school does a really good job of that. But that's why Alpha's kind of created for other schools, I guess, more than ours. But we definitely just wanted a chapter here just to kind of connect Latinos as best as we could. And I brought some of my e-board here today and some of my members. But yeah, I would just say we're professional based as far as trying to get you to grow your personal, I shouldn't even say personal, just professional development is probably what it's best for. But what we try to do on Bryant is kind of just make it half and half of that, and then kind of make it chill and vibey and just something that people want to go to as well.
That's amazing. Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, by the way, too.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if we're ready to start or should we wait?
Yeah. No, let's start. Let's just start. Yeah. People will probably come in, but they'll be quiet if they come in.
Oh no, we're all good. It's all good.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to thank everyone for coming. So we have an exciting meeting for all of you. So in honor of it being Latin Heritage Month, the Fashion Forum and the Bryant's Alpha Club have invited Evelyn Lopez, the CEO of Raised by Latinos, along with Victor Ramirez, the creative designer of the company. Oh, wait, hold on. Someone's coming. Okay. It's weird trying to do talk and then let people in. All right, so a little overview of their company. Raised by Latinos is a clothing company based in Toronto, Canada that promotes Latino culture. Through their streetwear movement, their mission is to unite Latinos in the world through positive thinking and to respect the diversity of their bloodlines and to connect conscious-minded and inclusive people. All right, so now if everyone could just give their attention to Evelyn and Victor, I can just open the floor to them.
Okay.
So yeah,
we're good?
Yeah.
basically, yeah, that's the whole concept behind the company. We felt that there was definitely a need to have Latino exposure and kind of get rid of the stereotype of Latinos in general. Because if you can see, like, there's not a lot of not, I don't want to say positive, but you know, when you do see they're portraying us as, yeah, and there's nothing wrong with it, but as janitors and mechanics and, you know, maids and things like that. But it's like, hold up a sec, you know, not that there's anything wrong with it, but we're also, you know, lawyers and doctors and things like that. And part of the other reason also was that we wanted to break that, I guess, colorism and racism within the Latino community. Some of us are white, some of us are indigenous, some of us are of more African descent. So within the Latino community, we find that there can be racism and colorism. You know, they'll be like, oh, you're too blanquita, or tú eres muy morenito, or, you know, tú eres India. And, you know, when you come to think of it, or not even when you come to think of it, we're all one. We all come from the same, you know, I guess the same genocide that occurred in, you know, when Christopher Columbus came over and everything happened. So we want to break that, and we just want to be inclusive to everybody.
Yeah, and from my end, there was always that stigma between Latinos and be like, oh, you know, don't hang around with those people because they're Ecuadorian and they do this, and or these guys are Salvadorian, or those Argentinians are more European. And so there's this whole stigma. And I started seeing, like, you know, even when I went to school, I even, you know, saw what Che Guevara and all these political people tried to do. And, you know, their whole thing was, you know, if we could unite Latinos, how much power could we have? And when I mean power, I mean like confidence. You know, we all talk about, you know, white privilege and all this other stuff. But I was raised in a house where there was like mental slavery in your head, where no digan nada, the door would knock. Oh, you know what? If you say something, you can get in trouble. And so it was this repressiveness, and there wasn't a way to even get out into and to express my Latinidad. And then even like in Canada, it's a little harder because we're like 2.5% to 5%, depending on which region you are, of the population. So out of every 100 people, there might be 2.5%. So now that being said, when we started this brand, we like, okay, you know, we didn't want to be like just Ecuadorians or this and that. So we said raised by Latinos, because, you know, our whole thing was we don't have friends. If you guys know, you guys are Latinos, like you guys have friends and you bring them over, they're part of the family. Oh, look at them, come, venga a sentarse, coman, you know what I mean? And so you kind of like, they become part of the fusion of your family and stuff like that. So raised by Latinos is not only that you were brought up by Latinos, but one of your friends that knows you, your mom helped raise them, or, you know what I mean? And so all that stuff. So it's a hard journey in the sense that I have my certain like stories of like racial stories, and I would always challenge my wife to be like, you don't understand because you're white, but you don't understand because I'm indigenous. But we all have a struggle. We all have this internal struggle, and we all say, but what is Latinidad? And so to me, when we started this brand, was to start these conversations so we could share and heal and break that mental slavery down, and as a people.
I don't know, just Raj, did you have a question? I don't know if he was trying to say something.
Yeah, he was saying something.
No, I don't. I'm so sorry.
Oh, okay.
Does anyone else have questions? Do we want to start? I mean, I have a couple questions, but I don't know if anyone else.
Start with yours, because I think I have some, but you
Okay.
go for it.
Well, first, how you said, like it's such a small percentage in Canada. Like, would you say that was much harder creating the brand, like where you're located now?
Not necessarily, because Latinos are worldwide. So our first vision was, okay, we'll target Toronto where we're at and, take it from there. It was a little bit more of a struggle here in Toronto, not because there's not enough Latinos, but because they're more closed-minded here, and it's basically they don't want to see another Latino shine.
Yeah.
And that was the problem that we faced here in Toronto, was that we were being brought down as opposed to lifting us up, because there are several other Latino brands here, and it's almost like they looked at it as a challenge or as a competition, but there's so many people, there's enough to go around. But we expanded fairly quickly into Los Angeles, and believe it or not, that's where we got our huge following, and they embraced us. It was just insane how the LA people, just all of a sudden they down with our movement and embraced us and embraced our brand and started talking about it. And right now in Los Angeles, our name is getting pretty well recognized.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I saw on your website how you had the streetwear in LA and then Toronto and then even Japan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Some stuff we're
Yeah.
moving into Japan, and we're currently working on branching off into New York.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah, so we're actually in talks right now with that as well for New York.
So to me, like, I come from I went to school for fine arts, illustration, computer animation, and so I do all that, the videos and stuff like that. I am dyslexic, so that there's a challenge there. But when we started, like, the brand, I always said, like, Toronto's 3 million people, LA's 26, half of them is thing. So we did the whole demographic study and started to look at, from a business perspective, where we could plant seeds to see how they grew. And how Evelyn was saying is that in Toronto, you have these cliques where it's like a certain culture, which is more of like a closed-mindedness. And so that's why, if you see in our statement, is like, respect the diversity of our bloodline. And we want to connect with open-minded and conscious-minded people, because no matter how hard we tried to, like, lead the horses to water, they didn't want to drink the water. Do you know what I mean? So we wanted to show them, and they didn't get it. They didn't understand the fact that they just thought that, oh, you guys are just a business. It's like, no, we're a movement. We're trying to break these mental walls to be like, just because your parents experienced this one time 100 years ago that was brought down all the way down to now, let's break this and let's work together as Latinos to create a community. Like, that's why I like the Alpha community and the communities that you guys have, a community of like-minded people and professionals to be like, hey, oh, you know how to do video, oh, you're a writer, and oh, you're an actress. Guess what? I just got a call from this person. Let me connect you to them. And that's what a lot of the European people do, the Jewish people do, and we need to learn from that kind of aspect.
we don't really have that within the Latino community. I see a couple of last names that are Spanish, so I think you can relate. Noelle, are you Latina or?
No, I'm not.
Well, Madison, you're Latina, yes? Okay, so
Yes.
I think that where we're coming from and what we're talking about when we're saying that it comes down to it being like, oh, there are some of the we're Dominicanos, or we're Cubanos, or we're this, and everybody just kind of goes their own ways. Where we're all Latinos. Let's come together, because together we're stronger, and together we have a voice and we have stories to tell.
And also on that is that we've affected the whole world, right? Like, there's no denying that, Latinos were part of hip hop. Latinos are now being more prevalent in there, and be like, man, your music's cool. Our music has always been cool. And we come, you know what I mean? Like, we come from Europeans, Africans, Tainos, our youngest is Irish and.
Yeah, so my son is so my background, I have Ecuadorian, Colombian, Moroccan, Italian, so it's just all over the place. And this is like direct from grandparents, my grandparents, like, this is where it comes from. And then my son, he is all of what I am, and Jamaican, Trinidadian, and my daughter is everything I am and Irish. But at the end of the day, we all identify as Latinos, regardless of, you know, the rest of the background that my kids have.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys don't mind me adding with myself, I've realized that there is a lot of separation. I love that Raised by Latinos is more than just what you guys are selling. It's like you said, a movement, and you're able to kind of make, I believe you said on your website, like make your dream come true. And with that, I just like that it's, again, it's more than just a brand. It's really something you're saying with your clothes and everything that you do. I guess just a question that I had is kind of just how did you get that process moving, I guess, because I know for me, I've definitely wanted to seek more like entrepreneurship work, but I know you guys have a story. So if you don't mind telling a little bit.
Well, the creative side, I guess, would be Victor and how that all came to be, because basically he draws, like how he says, you know, he does all the creative, the illustrating, and he's an artist, so he draws. So I'm like, you know, hey, you're talented. And he's like, yeah, I need to put my art onto something that has a meaning. And that's basically how it came to be.
Yeah. So like I have other businesses where I'm actually a UX UI creative director, and I work with Fortune 50 companies all over the world. Fortunately, I was able to break into that market, which is very difficult. You know, I mean, I've been in that market for about the last 25 years. But the way I needed to break into the market, it's a full story. Like my online name is victorhenry.com. That's my online name, because when I used to send my resumes as Victor Ramirez, I wasn't getting any work. So when I sent out and Henry's my second name. So I would go and I wouldn't go to the interviews, I would get the work. And then after they got to know me through online, then I would get into it. So, you know, many years have passed. And now when we started to raise this brand, I felt like I had like hidden my Latinidad, and I felt ashamed about it. So now if you see, I put Ramirez, unapologetically Ramirez is designing this. I'm not, obviously now it's different. It's been a couple of years, but we started designing this and we looked out, and there wasn't really like a high-end street brand out there that had to do with Latinos shining in a bright light. It's always like kitschy stuff or funny stuff where people turn around and be like, look, that's a funny shirt, or like some other sub brand, and all they did was, you know, grab a sub brand, like an actual brand, and redo it. And it's like, you know, wait a minute, I'm a designer. You can't steal the, you know, the Champion logo, turn the seat backwards and say it's design. You know what I mean? So we wanted to be like, we as a people have to start, you know, creating corporations so they can take us serious. We have to create mission statements so they can take us serious. We have to take ourselves serious and act accordingly. And you, as per your question, is like your entrepreneurship. I always say, you know, back about 20 years ago, I had this thesis, is like one day there's going to be hammer.com, where you could just sell hammers on a website. And that's what we're going towards, right? Because you have these huge groups out there, and then, you know, what do you guys have in common? So if you have a passion for something, be it cooking, be it crocheting, be it making candles, and you are genuine and you have a mission that has more to do than just you making money, it's about you giving back, then basically you're going to thrive. You know, us creating this company is not only about selling the gear and the stuff that we're selling. Our end point is basically saying we want to turn this into a multi-billion-dollar company, so then one day I can hire Latinos and like-minded people to shoot film, to do stories, to talk about our history, to employ, you know, people that are washing dishes because they have the wrong last name. Yeah. People that are cleaning homes because they, you know, they didn't go to an Ivy League school because it's $300,000 to do so. So we want to be able to make enough money to start employing Latinos and create a network, so we can say, hey, you want to be an actress? Okay, we know 3 people that can help you. You want to be a DJ? You go over here. You want to be a painter? You can do it. like believe it, dream it, do it.
Do you guys have a Facebook group?
Yes. If you go there, it's raisedbylatinos.com. There'll be a group there. We do, not a lot of people pay attention to it because I don't know, there's a lot of people that don't read nowadays. They just want to watch videos for some reason. So we're on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, and YouTube. And we actually started creating like IMRBL stories. You can talk about that. That was your baby.
Yeah, we started doing IMRBL stories, and it primarily focuses or highlights the background of Latinos and
even people, yeah.
everything that they have. Like I said, like for example, my daughter, she's half Irish and Ecuadorian, Colombian, Moroccan, Italian, and all that. So basically just writing short stories of how they identify with their Latinidad. And even I did get some submissions of stories where, one guy is like Irish, Scottish, Canadian, but he grew up with Latinos.
In a neighborhood, yeah.
In a Latino neighborhood. He married a Latina. His 5 babies are Latinos. And, that family pretty much, adopted him and raised him. So he had his story to tell. So again, and this is where it comes to, inclusion and diversity. And like-minded, conscious-minded people. It's not just for Latinos, but for everybody else as well.
Just to add, it's so amazing because I was thinking about like when I was younger growing up, and I just didn't, at least with my family, I didn't have anybody to even talk about these things. So the fact that you guys are literally just talking about them is huge. I was talking in my club or organization meeting last week just about the mental health that goes into it. And again, just what you guys are doing is amazing because I didn't even, at least younger or even a couple years back, I just didn't even know of any platforms or resources to go to talk about these things when the feelings are mutual,
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of groups now through Instagram that you can actually go through, and it's all about Latinidad, Latinos, the diversity, the racism and the colorism with the Latino community. There's a lot of resources. I'll definitely pass it on to you guys. So if you're interested to take a look and be involved, there is a lot of activism, especially I find I've been involved with a lot of activism groups in Los Angeles. So we're all fighting for the same thing, and we're just want our voices. It's time for our voices to be heard and for us to be taken seriously. There's a lot of racism in the United States
and in Canada.
Yeah, but right now, like it's huge in the United States with Latinos, and it's not being talked about. And I think it's because we're not making enough noise. With the Black Lives Movement, it's something incredible because I think that gave Latinos the opportunity, or I guess even the guts, to start talking, because they've been oppressed for so many hundreds of years. And so have Latinos. So I think coming together with the Black Lives Movement, and now Latinos saying, hey, wait a minute, we have a voice too. So it's amazing what's happening in the States right now with that.
And I just wanted to clarify something because, this incident happened when we were in LA, but when we say raised by Latinos, some people get offended. In the sense that they think that, oh, we're just pro-Latinos and it's like hate everybody else. No. And once again, like if you come into our family, like I'm indigenous, Ecuadorian, and my dad claims French. I don't know if that's true or not, but my kids are half Ecuadorian, half Peruvian. And so the whole stigma, I don't know if you guys know what the Willie Lynch letter is, but people say that it's fake or not fake. And the Willie Lynch letter was, a letter that was created by supposedly some slave owner, how to control the people. And in that letter, it said, put the darker skin against the lighter skin, the nappy hair against this. And so there's this whole stigma on how to control and enslave the people. And so when we stand up and say, this is not right, that, you are, doing something to, the Hispanic, Latinos, Mexican people, you start seeing that, hey, it's the Chinese flu, or hey, this. We're just saying that shouldn't be done for anybody. And in one family, you can have, like, once again, European, Jewish, African, and a mix.
Oh, you should see our family. When
Oh,
we
our
get
family is
together.
just like, it goes from like white, like blue, green eyes, all the way to the darkest dark.
Yeah, no joke.
And I'm in the middle with like my red skin and stuff. So when we walk outside, people are just looking at us like, how is this even feasible or possible? But to us, it's like any injustice is wrong.
Exactly.
And so when we say raised by Latinos, we mean the world. And the only reason we say raised by Latinos is because that's how we connect to it. And so what we want to do is heal. And in the sense of like, if you don't know your Latinidad and say, hey, I have this hole in my heart because I miss my indigenous part, or I know I'm Latino and I'm African, I'm Taino, and I don't understand. So contact us. We'll contact you to the people to find your roots so you can fill that hole. Because once again, you go back to, we were pulled out of different countries, mixed, genocide, and then we pulled into this other country where we don't even know what's going on. And so we lost our history and our roots. And that's not right for any people.
Yeah, I mean, just to add, right now, what I've noticed, especially this year for me, is that I have to go out of my way to learn the history about not even my own people, but just Latinos in general. I have to go and take a class and I have to follow things. And it's not stuff that I learned in regular AP US history when we have been here, we are here, we've been here before them. And just so much that I've learned, especially this year, about how rich our culture is as a whole, that I was aware of by my family, but not to the extent of what it is, the intensity of what it is. And I guess not feeling silent or anything, but I've even like read certain articles that are like, we are the kind of the silent minority, that we're here, but nobody's talking about us, you know?
Yeah,
So.
and I feel that now is the time a lot of people are doing it now.
And that silent minority is a huge stigma that we have as a culture, you know, because when everybody came over and they were slaves and the slaves were freed, they got their papers. So now they're American citizens, or they moved to Canada. In Newfoundland, we have a lot of African Americans that became Canadians because they came over and became citizens. But you have a lot of South American people that have still, or Central American people that are living in America in fear of being deported. So how do you stand up when technically you don't belong there, but your people owned that land 100 years before? So it's a huge issue that creates this stigma of like, be quiet, silent giant.
So basically through our streetwear, through our brand, through the clothing, we're able to express all these feelings and give a sense of like
Humanity.
pride for when someone is wearing our clothing, our streetwear, because it's kind of like, hey, you know what, there's a whole meaning behind this, and they wear it with pride. And basically all the designs, Victor, he draws them. Like when you do see the drawings, he does it on paper with a pencil. He's drawing it all, and then he does his thing with it. So
yeah,
it's all
then
art.
I trace it all in Illustrator, then I digitize it, then I separate them into the colors and stuff like that, and then I work with the manufacturers to try to bargain them to get better prices, because I'm a creative, right? So I'll be like, oh, I don't care how much a sweater costs, but she's the CEO, she'll be like, no, we can't do that. I'm like, but you don't understand, it's going to be this. And she's like, no, but we can't sell it at that price point. I'm like, cut it down. I was like, so, you know, there's a lot of going back and forth to find that final product for cost to be able to sell it back to the consumers, which is, it's tough, right? Because when you have a smaller brand like us, and we're competing with people like Adidas, Nike, sometimes their stuff comes at a lower price point, because we might be doing 100 shirts, they're doing 50,000. So our price points are like here, and their price points are like, you know what I mean? And so it's tough.
I think, because I know me like learning this year about like brand identity, I think that's more important in a way than price sometimes. Like what you're buying into, it's not just the product, but it's also like the personality of the brand. So I think is definitely important, like what you guys are sharing.
Yeah, one of our taglines is know what you wear and why you wear it.
Yeah, definitely.
So we're trying, and so a lot of the people that are woke understand that, but a lot of people like, I don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like they just don't
Yeah.
understand it. Yeah.
So I had a question. So I know how you have, I brought this up before, but how you have the streetwear in California, Toronto, and then Japan. Do you um like kind of change those items to kind of fit
So,
those target markets?
so in
Is that right?
Japan, we were going into before COVID, and I just be very straight because I don't want there to be any misunderstandings. We were negotiating with different vendors, like tattoo artists that have front end stores to hold our gear. But since COVID hit, it's not over there yet. Some people have bought and gone to Japan. Our whole thing is that once again, Latinos is so big. When a lot of people see an Asian person, they can't even believe that they're not Latino. So there's this whole segment of like Japanese, Chinese, and so I created this design that it's the Japanese word that says mixed, because over there, when I was speaking to some of the Chinese Latinos were saying that they weren't accepted because they were not 100% Japanese. So they were considered mixed, which is like a bad word over there. Like they're mixed, and once again being segregated from their culture. And I'm like, but that's all good. You're accepted into the Latino culture. Come over here, right? And so when we created that design, it was just a safe statement to be like, I'm mixed and I'm proud to be mixed. And then
So yeah, so basically to answer the question, yeah, it's we're planning on doing RBL New York, RBL Los Angeles, RBL Japan. That's our goal right now, is to expand and then to have the art or the clothes to reflect that culture in a sense. It's a lot of work, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it evolves, right? Because it's also, it needs to be, we don't want to do throwaway gear. We want to do stuff that makes impact. And so a lot of the gear that we do, we actually really research, right? Like, so some of the hoodies that we have in Toronto are too heavy for LA, right? So if they wear it in LA, they're dying because it's too hot. Even in October when it's down. So we have to actually look like, okay, it can't be a 20-ounce hoodie. It's got to be a 14 or 12-ounce hoodie. And the t-shirts, once again, like I'm a bigger, huskier guy.
So they got to be thicker.
So they got to
can't
be thicker.
thin. It's a lot.
There's a lot of research that goes into
Yeah.
it, because my wife will like these nice, very thin like shirts, and I'm like, babe, I can't wear that because I got little rolls over here, and every roll shows, and that like big guys like me can't wear that. So
Yeah.
they need to be a thicker like shirt. And so there's a lot of thought that goes into it. And even in Japan, you have to be aware of colors. And even in LA and New York, Chicago, you got to be very aware of colors, because one of the first designs we had was just red.
Especially LA
and,
and
like,
Chicago, we had to be mindful of the colors we used, because like you
Yeah,
said,
like-
we used red.
And it's
And
like,
then
are you
we're
Bloods
like-
or Crips? And we're like,
then
no, we're not associated
oh,
to
no.
anybody.
So we're like, we got to do a blue shirt now. And when we do send things to certain influencers or just people out in LA, we have to make sure, hey, can you wear red? Can you wear blue? There's certain colors like gold you can't wear, and we came through that to that conflict. So like he said, we did a red shirt, and then we had some people here even in Toronto like, no, we can't wear red. So we're like, oh gosh. So there's a lot of things that we have to think of before we push something out.
And so, yeah. And so that being said, like a lot of times when you see in California where there's a lot of the pastels, and I never understood that. And it was pastels because a lot of the gangs or people who are affiliated don't wear pastels. So you're safe. That's a safe zone, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like Chicago, I have a connection out in Chicago, and he does a lot of work with a lot of Latinos, and he's in a lot of activist groups. So he basically said that they're a little bit more neutral now with colors. It's not as intense as it may have been maybe about 10 years ago. So it has died down a bit, but there's always that you have to be very aware of what you're choosing and what you're putting out there.
But there's been some designs that we've done that I'm like, oh, I'm a genius. This is going to be the best and stuff. And then it just you fail, right? You fail, and then I'm just like, man, I failed, and it's just like,
and then they become giveaways, right?
yeah,
because it's like they're just there and nobody's really, gravitating to it. So we're like, man, he came out with this beautiful design, and we're like, yeah, this is going to be a hit. And it was like, so there are definitely times where I don't want to say fail, but
we learn.
Yeah.
We learn. And the thing is that sometimes my work is like very political and deep, that it only hits like, 10% of the population that will actually understand what that message is.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And so I have to try to figure out the balance between me trying to educate and fashion.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because it's like, I did this one where it was like Tupac the singer, and Tupac Amaru too, which was just like, like, I don't know. Anyways.
It was a split. So Tupac, the rapper, he basically, his mother changed his name when, I don't know, are you guys familiar with Tupac? Yeah. Okay. I don't know, because sometimes the younger ones, I don't know. So anyways, so
we have the same birthday. That's how.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. So his name actually got changed from his mom, because she was in the Black Panthers when he was 2. She changed it to Tupac Shakur, and Tupac Amaru Shakur is he was an indigenous revolutionary. Back in the the late 1800s. Yeah. So he fought for the indigenous freedom from the Spaniards. So that's where his name comes from. So what Victor did was he took Tupac Shakur, the rapper, and he split the face, and then he did Tupac Amaru 2, and then their faces are together. So that was
like Black Love, Brown Pride kind of shirt, to be like, this is nothing new. This has been going on forever, and we haven't been able to manifest it. So some people got it, but it wasn't as big as a hit that I thought it was going to be, because not a lot of people know the history, and there's a lot of younger people that aren't even interested in Tupac.
But it was beautiful because again, he draws it all, right? So it took him forever. It wasn't like just one thing that he went online and grabbed images and put them together. No, he actually drew this. So I'm sure you're all in arts and fashion, so you can appreciate the time and the creative process that is involved in creating something like this.
Yeah, definitely. That's really hard. Like, you don't know if it's gonna work or not, Oh, did I cut out?
Yeah, a little bit.
Oh, okay. I was just saying that it's hard because you really don't know what's gonna sell. But to help sell, do you guys use any like influencers or like celebrity type thing to kind of?
So we do use I wouldn't say influencers in the sense of social media influencers, but they are influencers in the sense that they are all pushing up the same message that we're pushing out.
Yeah.
So you have, artists, hip hop, rappers, you have activists, all those type of people are pushing out our brand. And that's how we were able to expand into LA and into Chicago and New York. That's basically what we use now.
So I always say we got lucky, but the harder you work, the luckier you get. Remember that, guy. So when people say, you're so lucky, I can't believe you got this opportunity, they didn't know that it took you
didn't know that you cried, you were laughing.
She quit like 10 times.
You quit like 10 times, you came back, so.
Yeah, so the secret is like, when you quit and when your thing, take your L's, take your losses, clean yourself off and get back up. But we were lucky. We know a lot of people in Toronto, growing up in Toronto. So we got some of our gear on Neo Garcia, which is a big, reggaeton artist.
Yeah.
When he was under 1 million followers, and then we were able to send him more stuff. Some of our stuff showed up in his music video, and then we got our gear on this other guy, this Cuban guy named El Micha, which once again. I did a hat, a black on black, because I just thought it was gorgeous, and it was gorgeous. and he wore it at like 2 concerts, and only I knew it was our hat because it was black on black and you couldn't see. So that being said, if you are going to send stuff to influencers, make sure it says the brand very, very clearly and not so obscure that people are not going to be like, hey, what's that? It's kind of cool. I wish I could get it, but no one's going to know what it was. But I think that when you do talk about influencers, the world's changed. And I'll tell you how. That in the end, and in the past, in the 90s, and even in 2000s, and even into 2008 and 10, you would send yourself stuff to like, I don't know, like Jennifer Lopez or one of these people, and then they would wear it, and then overnight, or Paris Hilton wore Lululemon and it went through the roof. It's not like that anymore. You have these micro little followings. So like if you're in a high school, that high school has their 3 top people, and that's one cluster. So you have all these clusters now of like, basically, like Andy Warhol said, everybody would get 15 minutes of fame one day. It's here now. So basically everybody's like famous now. Everybody might be famous to their little town, like, oh, they have their little cliques. So if you can get into those micro little famous influencers within those things, you might get more sales than you would from actually a bigger star, because that bigger star is like flooded with stuff. So you might be wearing 9 stuff everything during a day versus these micro things. And once again, it doesn't matter even if you get these top influencers.
They're sent a ton of things. Like I work with you probably don't know Trish Stratus. So she was a wrestler, WWE wrestler. She wrestled with The Rock and all those big names. So I'm actually her executive assistant, and I see the amount of stuff that she receives. It's just so much, right? So you would think that when these celebrities do get all your things, you're like, okay, I've made it. It's not really the case. Like, we have worked with certain celebrities. Currently, right now, I'm currently working with. I don't want to say the name, but someone out in LA, and something may come of it, something may not come of it. So it's tough. I feel that to get your brand out there, it has to come from the people, like from you, from me, from him, because I think it'll go a longer way with the people than with influencers and celebrities.
Yeah, and so even there, like when you say influencers, I always talk about the super fan. Influencers, they're more of like a gimmick, like, oh, they're wearing that, so I'm gonna wear that. That's not who we want.
And then it dies out.
Then it dies out.
And
as soon as it
then
goes up, it dies out. We want people to be like, hey, I bought something from, and the funny thing is, in 2 years, almost 2 years more, or just a little bit over 2 years, we have not had one return. Not one return. I think we had one time that the size was wrong, but people are pleasantly surprised with the quality of stuff that we have, because even though we could be charging more for our gear, we want to charge less, because my dream is to, like, if this sweater, somebody buys it 15 years from now, like your child or your kid will be like, hey, what is this? Mom, this is a vintage Raised by Latinos. You know how much this is worth? Like that whole Supreme, that whole or Bape story, to be like, wow, this thing's worth like $3,000 now. That's what I want. That's something that we gave to you might last 20, 30 years. We want that longevity. So if you're buying our stuff, it's an investment. It's not something, it's not throwaway gear.
Does anyone else have any questions?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Now everybody's like an influencer. I've seen like 10,000 of them. Like, how do you know which one's legit and which one's like, just someone trying to be an influencer?
For me, and I don't want to answer for Victor, but for me, in terms of it being a legit influencer or not, I look at more what type of work they're doing for the people and what they stand for and represent. And if it aligns with what my message is and what I believe in. And that comes down to it being, I believe in fighting for the people. I believe that people need to stand up. Latinos need to stand up and have a voice, and they need to be heard. I believe in helping the less fortunate. That for me is what sparks my interest in someone that reaches out to me. If they're on that same page, like saying, hey, you know what, I'm totally down with what you guys are, what you're pushing out and what you believe in, then that's the type of influencer or person that I want to be working with. Not to say that I'm discrediting, you know, super popular influencers, because they might have a message too, but that for me is a selling point, is if you're down with, you know, the movement.
Yeah, and from my perspective, I'm among the same lines where, you know, we might get 3 or 4 people coming in, and somebody might have 15,000 followers, and this other person might have 300, and this other person might have 700 followers. We always look at, you know, do they fall under the brand? Because we have gotten contacts from, you know, hip hop people, or like people that are mega stars, but their brand is not aligned with our positive, you know, thinking and they might be not aligned with our brand.
And you know, to go back on that, you know, how he was saying, you know, we've had like influencers that have 20,000, 50,000,
a million too, yeah.
Followers. And then you have someone, and it's already happened to me, that he has like 300 followers and he's huge. The connections that, you know, he put me through are like, whoa, you know. So never underestimate, even if this person has like 300 followers, you don't know who that person knows. And you'd be pleasantly surprised that sometimes those people that have the 300 followers are mega people.
Yeah, and from our perspective, what we started seeing, we had to actually change some of our protocols, because some people just started wanting to be like repping our gear, was because we started giving them clout, in the sense that they were influencers and they might have 700, and we would just say, okay, look, we're going to do it. We're going to send a person to, we're going to send you some free gear. We're going to send a person to do a photo shoot for you, all this stuff. The only thing we ask is, all our competitors are going to hit you 3 days later or within the same day. Can you at least give us 3 weeks to a month before our campaign is done, before you start wearing somebody else's clothes? Because, you know, you're a model or whatever, you're allowed to do whatever you want. And so we started seeing that when people reached out to us, they might have 700 followers, and after they might spike to 1,500 because we like this kind of like fake Instagram world. And I'm like, guys, that's not real.
Yeah.
Let's, like, you know, everybody takes the best pictures, everybody takes this. And so to me, what we want is people that are down with the movement, because we are a movement.
I always say is, you know, be nice to the receptionist, because she's the one that's going to open the doors to the big people. You know, if you're not nice to that receptionist, she's the one that's talking to all the, you know, the people in the office.
The gatekeepers.
That's my whole thing. When it, you know, a lot of people tend to talk down to, you know, receptionists or things like that. And it's like, no, you got it twisted, because they're the ones that are going to let you talk to those other people. I hope that answered your question. I think it's Raul.
Yeah, Raul.
No,
Yeah, I answered my question. Thank you.
no problem.
I have a couple of questions, and I was in another meeting, so I came in when you were in the middle of talking about something, and so I don't know what I've missed. But I think you were mentioning, you were first mentioning that there's not a level of collaboration among the Latinx community as you find in maybe some other cultures. So I guess my question is, one, what's the goal of the movement? What is it that your objectives that you're trying to achieve? And two, how do you gain this collaboration? How do you start getting people to join, to understand your goals and sign on to it and sign up for it?
That's a great question. So yeah, there isn't a lot of like collaboration within the Latinos, the Latino community. And as I was explaining earlier, it's basically, it comes to country or island pride. So it'll be like, oh, you know, I'm Ecuadorian, I don't want to talk to that Salvadorian because those people, they're, you know, or, you know, the Cubanos, you know, I don't like those people. They're, you know, there are a lot of negritos there. And like, it's terrible. It really is within the Latino community
and within the family.
And within family, yes.
Within the same family, you might have somebody that's
Yeah.
darker skin and somebody that's lighter skin. And we go so often to even like, you know, a lot of comedians joke about it, but we'll be like, you know, el chinito, el negrito, like, you know, like dark skin one, the indio, like, you know what I mean? I'm red skin. So they would be like longo, which means like Indian and Ecuadorian. So there's all this thing that's accepted that's wrong. And to me, once again, I always go back to the Willie Lynch letter, is the fact that, you know, we were pulled out of different countries, genocide, put together, put into this fusion, and, you know, you have the Tainos, you have this, and then we're in these North American countries, and there's no outlet to be like, when me and Evelyn speak, I thought that she had it easy because she's white and she's a good-looking woman, so she's got it easy, but she's got to go against machismo. She's got to go against other Latinas that be like, well, you don't know what you don't know what suffer because you're a white Latina. And then to me, I'd be like, well, I have red skin and I look like indigenous. My name is Ramirez. And so you have this whole thing. And so to me, I think that the key to it is sharing these stories and being like, this is my struggle. And then Evelyn, this is her struggle. And then when we started like to share these stories in between us, we started to see a lot of similarities, that there's like this post-traumatic syndrome that we all stay quiet. I don't know why. And it's maybe because it was, you know, we were enslaved people and we were scared that we were going to get deported or who knows what. But I think that the thing is sharing these stories and learning that we have a beautiful culture. And if you don't know about it, you can talk to this person and they're going to share. And so there's this hole that we have that we, you know, that we're missing because our ancestors, you know, like once again, I go back, you know, if you're Italian or Jewish, you have a history that you can climb down. You can go and say, hey, this is the Moses and this didn't happen. You can trace it. All our stuff was burnt or stuff. So we have this whole.
But we have a history too. You know, like I wouldn't say we don't have a history. It's just not.
A lot of people don't know about it.
It's not talked enough about. But in terms of how and what we're trying to do is unite Latinos, regardless of what color you are, what race you are, what country your parents or what country you come from. For example, us here with Raised by Latinos, we have a Dominican, and he's Black, you know, Black Dominican. There's us working here, and then you have an Italian, Ecuadorian. She's, you know, light eyes, blue eyes, almost like, you know, like very white skin. So that's how we're trying to create our brand, where it is all of us and push it out to the world and basically saying, hey, you know what, let's all work together. We work with, you know, a Mexican, a Cubano, a Dominicano, Ecuatoriano. So that right there is uniting us. And when people see this, they're like, whoa, what's going on here?
And even with like Dennis, like one of my friends, he's Scottish, Irish, and he was adopted into the Latino family, and he identifies him as Latino, but he is Canadian, Irish, Scottish, and he's like, I don't like the bigotry, I don't like this that happens. So to me, the one thing that I want to stress, that I always stress, that raised by Latinos doesn't just mean you were raised by a Spanish parents. That means that you might have a friend that was there for you when you needed them. Your kids might be being raised by a nanny that's Latino. So this whole cultural thing is the fact that I don't want it to get skewed to be like we're anti-white or anti-Black or anti-anything.
It comes down to being, we're all one.
Yes.
Whether you're Latino or not, that's my whole thing, is the diversity and the inclusion. And if COVID wasn't here, I'd be probably out, you know, protesting
and I'd have to be there pulling her back saying, okay, let's go.
But I believe that everybody has a voice and it needs to be heard. And what we say is to treat everybody with dignity, no matter your station. So that's basically right now, unfortunately, we're not able to be out there sharing this. And the only way we can right now is through social media, through digital platforms. So that's how we're trying to get that message out.
That's a beautiful, important message, really, and not going to be easy, but
yeah.
Wonderful that you've taken this on. I just wonder if there's, it's not, I'm a business professor, you know, but, you know, oftentimes these movements sometimes gain traction with reaching out, you know, finding a scholar, an academic who does research on this, who, and then can start pulling some things together and pulling some common threads and common themes across the different Latino communities, and then ultimately get the ball rolling. And sometimes that then turns into more of a popular press type of book, like you know, not non-academic, but like right now I'm reading the book Caste, which is so painful to read, but it's in the popular press, and it gives non-academics a view into what the Black culture has. You know, it's hard for white people to see your perspective and live your life and understand what you've been dealing with. And so, you know, I don't know the right person, but it'd be great if you could find someone, and someone's probably out there already studying this, but I love the message, and it'd be great to get an academic to come in and start pulling this together, and then maybe go more mainstream with it to expose it more.
It's ironic that you say that, for lack of a better word, because when you have, like how you said, you know, white people, they don't understand the struggle. Where my son, he's half Jamaican, so I don't understand. I shouldn't say I don't understand the struggle, but as he was growing up, I was seeing what was happening and how he was treated because of the way he looked and because he was half Jamaican. My daughter is half Irish, so she sees both worlds. She sees the world here, the Latino home that she's being raised in, and, you know, she goes to her father's home and she sees the white part of it. So, you know, she can identify with what's happening. Like we had an incident last week that happened here, and she's like, I can't believe this is happening. You know, she actually saw where it was, you know, that racism towards us because we were Latino. And she's like, this would never happen if I was in my dad's house. So, you know, for you to say that, you know, white people don't understand, you're absolutely right, because even myself being a Latina, I never understood what my son or what a Black person would go through until I saw it happen to my son when he was in the 3rd grade for the first time ever. I couldn't believe it. You know, another child said to him, I hate Black people, you should all die. So, you know, I was floored. Like, I didn't know how to handle that, because I was like, wait a minute, to me, I don't see that. I didn't see him as looking anything but my son. And, you know, I approached the principal and they dismissed it. They did nothing. It was predominantly an Italian school, and they did nothing about it. So now he's 21, so he's doing a Bachelor of Film and Television. So now he's taking his writing skills and his video skills and creating stories and movies on being racially profiled. So now that's his outlet. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. I think that would be something that we should or could look into.
We've started to actually create films locally, and we started to reach out to different parts of North America to start documenting stories of just an everyday person, because we always do stories of like stars or like this one person that made it. To me, the real story is the person selling ice cream in the corner, the maid, the bricklayer. I want to tell those stories, because, you know, you have like Little House on the Prairies. We have all this history of like of like the settlers. So to me, in Canada, we're in a unique situation right now, is that we're trying to document, we started to try to document all the people that got, all the Latinos that got here in the late 60s, early 70s, and they're still alive. So we're starting to document those stories, and we're gonna start reaching out to people all over the United States to send their stories to us, so we can grab all these stories before all these people die and share them with a scholar and have them make their stuff. Because once again, I don't wanna lead people to what they believe. I wanna show them these stories and be like, hey, there's 10,000 stories here. Go look at it and tell me what you believe.
So our goal with that is to present it to, the premier, the Toronto premier, and the prime minister of Canada, and say, hey, listen, this is what we got. What can you do with it?
And that's all out of our personal financials. We're not like, this is what we want to make a change, and we live by our word. And so, yeah.
Well, I look forward to seeing what comes of this, and I hope big things come of it. I wish you a lot of luck with this and success, and it will be a tough struggle.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah,
most definitely.
Nothing,
But,
nothing that we're not used to.
I'm a fighter. I'm feisty. I don't give up that easy.
I'm a creative director, UX expert. I work for top 50 companies in the world. And my whole life has been an uphill battle. So bring it on.
You're ready for it. I have to pop into my next meeting. I just want to say thank you so much for, Noelle and the other folks put this together, but I really enjoyed participating. Thank you very much for your message and for sharing with our students.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thanks, Noelle.
Thank you. I don't know if anyone else has any questions. I don't know. I think a couple people might have to go to a class or a career fair, but I just want to thank you guys so much. This was great. It was so nice to see into a different perspective, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you so much. We have so much to say. We're talkers, so
yeah. I love it.
And later on, what you guys can do is, whoever participated, maybe just send us all their names, and then we can do a raffle and we'll do a giveaway.
Yeah, and I'll touch base with you, Noelle, because I'll definitely extend out like a discount for your entire group that you guys can use. If anybody's interested in any of our gear, we're coming out with some girl stuff. So because I told them, like, listen, we need to have some girly things happening here, because I'm not feeling this whole, so
yeah, it's very girly.
Yeah, so we're coming up with some girly things as well, for lack of a better word. But I'll definitely extend the discount code for your entire group, and just go on the website. It's raisedbylatinos.com, and yeah, just plug in your discount code, and away you go.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you
So much for having us.
Thank you. All right.
Of course. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.